And I have Alex Gatundu as well, who's an advocate in studio to try and look at some of the top stories that we have this morning. So, gentlemen, before we get into integrity matters, 3 months to the general election, Alex, let me begin with you. What do you think the state of devolution has been like in this country the last 5 years?
For starters, it was good for Wajiko to insist that there has to be dispersal of power and resources to the ground, to the various units that we have on the ground, and that you're talking about county governments. Secondly, out of 10 so far, I think I would put it at 6. I would put it at 6. They have tried. Yeah, they have tried. They have, of course, a lot of challenges, especially on integrity of the governance and the conduct of the affairs of the county assemblies. The laws that they have been churning out leave a lot to be desired. But at least they are trying. So I would give them 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Yes.
George?
Well, let me start by quoting what the former chair of the
Council of Governors?
No, not the Council of Governors.
Oh.
Kinude Omangi,
Okay.
the transition authority, who used to say one thing: if devolution failed, there would be a revolution in the country. So for me, really, devolution has been one of the greatest innovations of governance in this country. Like Gatundu has said, a lot of things have happened, resources closer to the people, but still challenges abound, especially when it comes to the issues of devolving corruption. We've had cases of non-carcinogenic wheelbarrows. We've had cases of curtains that go for 7 million, gates for 7 million, and all that. But if we tighten those loose ends, I think at the end of the day, devolution really is the biggest salvation for the country.
Of shillings and tea and wheelbarrows. And, oh, God. Okay. All right, so let's talk about that case that at the Supreme Court, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is seeking an opinion from the Supreme Court on whether or not people who have been convicted of offences in the past should be allowed to run in the upcoming general election. George, allow me to begin with you because you work for Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. How did this come about? Why did you arrive at this conclusion? How did you decide to get to court on this? And isn't it a little late in the day to be going to the Supreme Court? You have 3 months to go.
Linda, let me start by saying one thing. Every time I've had an opportunity to come to this studio here, I've said one thing. Kenyans gave themselves a constitution that has very clear provisions. Those provisions are not a list of suggestions. The constitutional provisions are the supreme law of the land.
Granted.
And there is a clear section there, Chapter 6 of that constitution elaborates on what kind of leaders this country should have on matters of integrity. It talks about Article 10 on national values and principles of governance, also clearly sets out the kind of leaders that we want to have as a country. And the starting point for us is really the constitution. And if, as a country, we are going to live true to the dictum that our people get the kind of leaders that they deserve, let's anchor that on our constitution. So that is the starting point for
George,
us.
why now? You have, 70-something days? How many? 77 days to the general election.
It's not too late for us to really have brought this at this point in time. Remember that we're actually building on something that has been happening in this country. And let me just give a few examples. The reason we're bringing this, I want to start by commending especially what the president did when he gave the State of the Nation address, where there are certain leaders, cabinet secretaries, who had questionable credentials, who were told to step aside. But then, progressively, we thought maybe our courts would also come up with a concrete or cogent way of arguing around leadership and integrity. That doesn't seem to be the case. What we have now is a problem whereby when it comes to elective positions, it seems that we hold the leaders there to a much, much lower standard, the ethical standard. But when it comes to less appointed positions, elective positions, we hold them to a much higher standard, which is actually a problem in terms of enforcing Chapter 6. So we want the Supreme Court, once and for all, to give us a clear direction on this matter.
You're basically seeking a direction. Chapter 6, what does it say? How does it apply?
Because there are different interpretations that are actually emanating from the High Court now, and we want, like I said, a unified direction on this matter.
Alex, what are your thoughts?
It is quite a dicey issue. It can never be easy. It's complicated. And I think my brother and the institution are being overambitious. as to what they can expect the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not going to tell them, nor the country, what are the yardsticks or parameters that should be used in guiding the integrity and ethical studying or ethos to be applied or to inform the process. Remember, the Constitution is very clear in Article 10, in Article 232, and in Chapter 6 on what are the national values, principles. Everything is there in the Constitution, and that is the theory. The theory is there. The yardsticks are there. The parameters are there. Very good for the paperwork. But Linda, that is where it stops. When it comes to the application of these ethos on the ground, that's where we totally fail. And so long as Wajiko is the one who determines what kind of leadership and leader I want, you can rest assured Chapter 6, Article 232, and Article 10 of the Constitution are just mere paper tigers. They are just paper tigers.
This goes back to the voters.
Exactly, and I will tell you why. You would have expected, for example, the institution to have been energized and to have put into motion the processes that now that they have put at the highest court in land before the nominations. Because
actually he's here. Let him tell us why not.
Let me finish first. Because at the end of the day, when you read the two, when you read Article 10, Article 232, and Chapter 6, what comes out clearly is this: that actually Wajiko is being told, or is telling herself, what are the guiding principles, values, ethos that I should use when I am electing leaders at the nomination stage. Secondly, what are these values and ethos that are going to be applied by the political parties during their political primaries? Because we should not give the electoral body, for now, IEBC, people who have issues of integrity and ethics.
So basically taking it back to the political parties.
Yes, if Wajiko has given you a crook or a thief to go and run during the national general election, you have issues there. You have issues there.
George.
Wanjiku is not dumb. Wanjiku really knows what she wants.
Yeah.
And the whole saying about Wanjiku actually emanates from some politician in the past.
I actually had a similar conversation with the whole panel that I had there. They were taking it back to the citizens.
Wanjiku is not dumb. Wanjiku voted for the constitution we have by 68%. So Wanjiku's will, in terms of what the sacrosanct doctrine of governance should be in this country, was soundly expressed when Wanjiku went to the ballot in a referendum and voted for a new constitutional order. So I want to disagree with my colleague when he says that although we have these nice provisions in the constitution, that is as far as they go. Because for me, all of us, as clearly set out in that constitution, Article 3, have a duty and responsibility to really uphold constitutionalism. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's not going to be an instant cup of coffee, but it's something that we work on. If it took us 20 years to get this constitution, it will take us longer to actually implement it.
Okay.
It has to be a commitment and a mindset that is different from what Gatundu is saying, that, oh, wow, just good provisions, but that's as far as.
But then, like what he's saying, fine, it's going to be a long process. It will take us quite some time to get here. But, George, surely this couldn't have been done before the nomination so that we get to a point where...
There can't be a better time for this to have happened than now. Let me tell you why. A number of structures and institutions have been put in place, and we're actually feeding into those structures and institutions and also trying to really get clarity on what the whole leadership and integrity chapter means. One of the structures that has been put in place is the working group, the Chapter 6 working group that is being led by the Attorney General. That structure is yet to receive the names of the people who have been nominated so that actually it vets them, and we hope they will be able then to rely on the information that has been generated by ourselves, by our other partners. We are working with the Red Card campaign, for example, to actually document certain groups of leaders who should not be allowed to vie. So for me, the immediacy and the environment now allows us to really interrogate these leaders and ensure that before they present themselves to the ballot on August 8th, we vetted them out. But even if they actually succeed and go to the ballot, What we are saying is that it is not late for us to pursue them even after they have been elected. My only hope is that the country will do the right thing, because it's also expensive to go into by-elections and all this.
It's good now that you're saying it's going to be expensive.
Yes,
because assuming we get to that scenario and some candidates...
The working group, I hope, will actually apply a much more rigorous ethical standard so that come August, we have men and women who meet Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and I hope, again, as I said earlier, that the Supreme Court is going to help us to get clarity on this matter. And that's why precisely we moved to the Supreme Court this morning to get that matter addressed.
Alex?
I think I would disagree with my brother yet again. On the issue of the working group that he's talking about, first and foremost, I am hearing that word for the first time here in the studio.
At least I've heard it before.
Yes. What I have heard is no, if you are talking about the agency that is constituted of IEBC.
Yes, the Attorney General.
Attorney General, Ethics and Anti-Corruption. Yes, if that is the one that you're talking about.
That is the one. It's called the Chapter 6.
My problem with that group is this.
What?
Why are they acting in the darkness? Why have they not come out openly to, for example, publish in whatever form, whether in the Kenya Gazette or whether it's in the newspaper, the guidelines, the policies, the principles, the ethos, the parameters that they are going to apply that will inform their decision? You know why I have a problem? You see, you cannot. They should, for example, did they consult political parties?
The register of political parties.
No, I'm talking about the political parties. Political parties, because
consult them about
yes,
because
they are remember
to be vetted, so they are represented by the registrar.
Let me finish. Yeah. No. The registrar of political parties does not represent the interest of political parties. He represents
the office is supposed to be the regulator.
Okay.
The political parties themselves have a right. They should have been given that forum in order for them to inform.
So basically, this group doesn't really serve the interest that you want.
When political parties have been given that opportunity, yes, when they have been given that opportunity, they have ended up watering down the responsibilities that come with leadership and integrity.
Okay.
And that is clearly evident in the kind of a law that they came up with on leadership and integrity that seems to give them a pass when all other Kenyans, including you and myself, when you apply for these positions, bring your criminal investigation, bring the KRA certificate, bring ABS. Why would we hold our leaders to a lower standard when the people who are applying for these jobs, we hold them to a much higher standard?
All right, listen, George Morara from Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and Alex Katundu as well, an advocate of the High Court. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and for speaking to us. Probably this is a conversation we still need to have. And I'll try and see if I can get the two of you again, then maybe we can agree to disagree on several issues.